All right, so over the last couple of weeks, we have seen a pretty significant shortage in baby formula here in the United States, and that could be somewhat of a problem given the fact that babies, believe it or not, actually need to consume nutrients in order to survive. So, pretty significant problem here, but I wanted to get into this because I think that this is a quintessential example of the capitalist mode of production completely failing to deliver a basic life necessity for the broader public. So, a couple different angles that I wanted to touch on here. Number one, how bad is the problem? Number two, what caused this problem in the first place? No surprises, basically a classic in American capitalism of a consolidation of the market and corporate profiteering to the detriment of basic standards within a lot of these factories that produce this baby formula. And then we're going to get into exactly what the Biden administration is doing about this shortage. So here to start us off from CNN, they say families ration formula for children as shortage worsens. So coming out of the single richest country in the history of humanity, we have a shortage of baby formula. They say it could take months before the nation's supply goes back to normal. Currently, 45% of baby formula products nationwide were out of stock at some point for the week ending in May 15th, according to figures provided to CNN by Data Assembly, a real-time data tracking agency that gauges how much product is on store shelves. So 45% of baby formula products are not on shelves. So obviously this is a massive issue. It's not just something on the fringes that we can gloss over or try to mildly supplement. This is obviously going to take some pretty dramatic overhauls on a number of different fronts in order to address. And as they were saying there, I mean, even with some of the steps that the Biden administration has been taking, it still could be a significant problem in the weeks and months to come here. But now we get to what exactly caused this formula shortage in the first place. So good breakdown here from Common Dreams' Jake Johnson. He says, documents show baby formula maker enriched shareholders amid a deadly bacteria outbreak. So a little bit of details. They say financial documents and whistleblower testimony spotlighted by The Guardian on Friday show that the US-based baby formula producer Abbott used the massive windfall profits that it accumulated between 2019 and 2021 to enrich shareholders even amid a deadly bacteria outbreak that has triggered nationwide outrage and contributed to a formula shortage. And they say, quote, Abbott detected bacteria 8 times as its net profits soared by 94% between 2019 and 2021, The Guardian's Tom Perkins reported. And just as its tainted formula allegedly began sickening a number of babies with 2 deaths reported, the company increased dividends to shareholders by over 25% while announcing a stock buyback program worth $5 billion. And again, stock buybacks, something that I think should be completely outlawed, especially from billion-dollar corporations. But basically, stock buybacks are just a way for a capitalist enterprise to jack up their stock valuations to then deliver more profits to their shareholders and continue that cycle. But obviously, if you're spending $5 billion on stock buybacks to enrich your shareholders and executives, then you're not spending that $5 billion on actual capital investments to improve your product or to even conduct basic regulations on the safety of the product that you are shipping out to the country. But they continue saying Rakeen Mabood, a chief economist at Groundwork Collaborative, told the newspaper that Abbott chose to prioritize shareholders by issuing billions of dollars in stock buybacks instead of making productive investments. Again, something that is just completely baked into our financialized economic system here in the United States. This is very consistent across basically any industry that you want to look at, whether it's, we talked about the gas prices that have been skyrocketing here in the United States as multi-billion-dollar fossil fuel companies like Chevron and Exxon are reporting record profits while they, buy billions and billions of dollars worth of stock buybacks and refuse to actually invest in increased production here in the United States to try to get that price lowered down, as they also, on top of that, continue to just price gouge Americans beyond the supply side costs that they have been reporting. But on the specifics of this one, they continue saying in late February, Abbott recalled a lot of its Similac PM 6040 powdered formula that was manufactured at a plant in Sturgis, Michigan, after an infant who consumed the product died of Chronobacter infection. And according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, at least 4 infants fell ill after consuming Abbott formula produced at the Sturgis facility, which has since been temporarily shuttered. And Abbott, which has faced a Justice Department complaint and scrutiny from federal regulators, insists that there is no conclusive evidence to link Abbott's formulas to these infant illnesses, but a whistleblower filing dated October 19th, 2021, suggests that the bacteria outbreak was caused by equipment at the Sturgis plant that was failing and in need of repair. And they say a number of product flow pipes were pitting and leaving pinholes, the complaint reads. This allowed bacteria to enter the system, and at times to the bacteria not being adequately cleaned out in clean-in-place washes. This in turn caused product flowing through the pipelines to pick up the bacteria that was trapped in the defective areas of the pipe. And they say a footnote of the whistleblower document states that the complaint was advised by an operator that leadership at the Sturgis site was aware of the failing equipment anywhere from 5 to 7 years from the bacteria outbreak occurring. So they knew about this. They knew about the flawed, the holes in their piping that was leading to potential contamination. They knew about this for years, and they did nothing about it while they continued to record record profits and giving record dividends from their stock buybacks to their shareholders at the same time as they are ignoring these glaring health issues that are going on in their facility. But they continue saying the outbreak at the Sturgis facility, the largest baby formula plant in the United States, has exacerbated a nationwide baby formula shortage and, according to experts and progressive critics, spotlighted the dangers of corporate consolidation. And on the specifics of this industry, again, no surprise, you have essentially an oligopoly of gigantic corporations who are artificially raising prices for baby formula and also, cutting corners to, maximize their profits for their shareholders. But they say Abbott produces 43% of all baby formula in the US, and 4 companies, including Abbott, control roughly 90% of the nation's formula market, and the concentrated industry has lobbied aggressively to weaken bacteria testing standards. So again, nothing too out of the ordinary for how all capitalist enterprises in the United States operate. You're cutting corners, you are buying billions of dollars worth of stock buybacks to inflate your stock prices for your shareholders, for your executives, while you're simultaneously refusing to make adequate capital investments in further production or in, again, basic maintenance of your facilities to prevent potentially deadly outbreaks of bacteria. But, when 90% of the nation's formula market, or in really any industry, if it's controlled 90% with a handful of companies that are forming an oligopoly, then yeah, they're going to be able to do this, and they're going to be able to, as they point out here, lobby the government aggressively to reduce regulations that could have prevented something like this outbreak from occurring in the first place. But now we're left with a situation where, we're having to play catch up here. And again, this could take potentially months and months and months to actually resolve some of the shortages that we have been seeing. But the Biden administration has actually attempted to do something good about this. So, you guys know my channel, very, quick to criticize Biden when he does something that's terrible and awful. But you also, on the flip side of that, got to give him somewhat credit when he does something good. So here from Business Insider, they say Biden invokes the Defense Production Act to ramp up production of baby formula as parents face a national shortage. So a little bit of details on exactly what this plan is looking like. They say the White House on Wednesday announced measures to address the national shortage of baby formula, including President Biden's move to invoke the Defense Production Act. And they say invoking the act allows the government to require suppliers to send needed ingredients to baby formula manufacturers ahead of any other customers, according to a statement announcing the moves. And they're also doing what's called Operation Fly Formula, which is another measure announced on Wednesday, and it will allow the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Agriculture to use military aircraft to pick up baby formula overseas. And the statement said the formulas from abroad must meet the Food and Drug Administration's safety standards. So, basically they're using these two different approaches here. Now, is that going to address the underlying issue of the corporate consolidation within the baby formula market? No, not really at all. I mean, again, this is typical neoliberal, Joe Biden type of mindset where you're putting a band-aid on the problem while these same corporations who caused this problem in the first place, like Abbott, they're just going to continue to make money off of this. I mean, there's maybe a marginal hit to their stock price as all of this news has been coming out, but at the end of the day, I mean, this is something that should involve criminal investigations, and the Department of Justice is looking into it, but are they really going to go after the CEO of Abbott? Are they really going to go after the shareholders and the people who are legitimately responsible for this type of inaction that led to the outbreak in the first place? No, they're not really going to go after them. And the cycle of this corporate consolidation and cutting corners and prioritizing shareholder interest over, the lives of literal babies in this country, that cycle is going to continue. And, inevitably in the future, maybe it's not in baby formula, but we will continue to see these same exact problems that are generated by the system of capitalism continue onwards. But, he is doing something, so you got to give him a little bit of credit on that front. Now, on the other front, which was also something that was interesting, think about how often we have seen Republicans come out recently, especially in the wake of the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion on Roe v. Wade, and they come out and they insist that they are the party who cares about American families. They are the party who is trying to just protect children here in the United States. And yet, here from the Washington Post, they say nearly 200 Republicans voted against a bill to ease baby formula shortage. So they say House GOP leaders were among the 192 Republicans who voted against providing $28 million in aid, $28 million, literally a drop in the bucket, to the Food and Drug Administration to address the shortage of baby formula within days of criticizing President Biden for not doing enough on the issue. So basically this $28 million, this is just to give the FDA a little bit more resources to, go out and hire people who are able to more effectively oversee things like the outbreak of that bacteria at a facility like the Abbott one. So giving them mildly more resources in order to just do their job, right? Clearly, the FDA is under-equipped, under-resourced, understaffed, and so they're not able to adequately regulate a lot of these markets. But, that's why the GOP, that's why Republicans who serve corporate America would be against a bill like this, is because they want to completely dismantle institutions like the FDA or the EPA, etc. They don't want government regulations in any way, shape, or form because they believe in the delusional free market mindset that leads to the corporate consolidation issues that we're literally talking about right now. But they continue saying House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Whip Steve Scalise, and Conference Chair Elise Stefanik voted late Wednesday against the measure to provide new FDA funding, which the House approved on largely party line vote of 231 to 192. And they say 12 Republicans broke ranks and joined with Democrats in backing the money. And they say on a separate bill, the House voted Wednesday overwhelmingly to ease the burden on low-income parents by allowing the Federal Women, Infants, and Children, otherwise known as WIC program, a major national purchaser of formula, to source it from more foreign suppliers. And the vote was 414 to 9, with all the opposition coming from, again, Republicans. And the Senate approved this legislation on Thursday by voice vote, and it now heads to Biden, who will sign it into law. So, at the end of the day, give a little bit of credit to Joe Biden for really doing the bare minimum here, and again, putting that Band-Aid over one of the glaring issues that comes as a natural byproduct from having a capitalist system in the way that we do right now in the United States. They have an oligopoly, and so regardless of what the industry is, oligopolies without actual free market competition, which is what conservatives and what capitalists claim to be big believers in, right? When you have a runaway capitalist system that just has this type of corporate consolidation, of course they're going to be able to, with basically complete impunity, engage in these types of stock buybacks to prioritize their shareholders against the interests of basic safety regulations within their facilities. Of course they're going to engage in that because that's their sole motivation. Their job is not to provide baby formula for the American people. Their job is to deliver maximum shareholder value to their shareholders, to their executives, to their CEOs, etc. So, this is, again, pretty much a perfect example of the problems with allowing profit motives to drive industries like baby formula, or really any industry that is a basic life necessity, whether it be healthcare or housing or, food production, etc. All of these things need to, at the end of the day, at least be decommodified to some extent, so that we don't have to rely on profit-driven corporations who are very clearly failing to do what is, at least in theory, supposed to be their job at adequately providing basic life necessities to the American people.